Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. In the comics, TV, and movies, we will go from Earth 616 to the Mojoverse to the TVA in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the man without fear, Chris.
I'm the nerd with the mouth, David.
Alliance Assemble.
Assemble.
Volume 253. If you're watching on video, either live or otherwise, you see David is appropriately dressed. As always, I'm wearing my Man Without Fear shirt, and we're just gonna say spoilers at that point, but Disney Plus basically spoils it when you try to pull up the episode. I'm just gonna say right now, Frank Castle has returned.
Yes, there's nothing more to be said. Marvel has tweeted it out, Disney Plus has tweeted it out. They have put it on all their socials. It can't be avoided. The man, Frank Castle, is back. John Barenthal in the role that I will say. And Travis Snell has said this as well. He is in the top three of actors who were born to play a comic book role, up there with Heath Ledger and Hugh Jackman. He is the Punisher. He gets the character, and oh man, this was a return to form that I did not expect, but I loved every second of.
It was definitely a again, we knew he was coming. We knew he was coming back, but I don't want to get into it because we're just going to go on a tangent, everything like that. We're going to get into it. It's the only spoiler we'll go before we go to full spoilers with everything at that point. How's been your week?
My
And
week has
also,
been
hey, we got a fan in the show, Detail saying throw that same Punisher shirt on when I'm watching. And Biffa Jack saying he's caught up with reading. How are you guys? Well, guess what? David's about to say, how's been your week?
My week has been busy but good. I have officially started my spring break early, so I do not return to work until April, and I'm happy about it. So for those viewing, I am in a different setup than normal, and that is because I am currently on vacation. So I'm going to also be on vacation next week, but I will not be here. But for this time, I'm on vacation and I could not miss this episode. So I am doing the show remote, taking it on the road.
Yep, that's why it sounds just a little bit different too at that point. So, but no, I'm glad. I appreciate you. As we say, we do this for you, you the people, right?
Exactly. So I could not miss this. So I'm so excited. How has your week been?
Yeah, my it's a birthday week for me. So my birthday was time of recording yesterday, Wednesday. So if you're listening to this on the audio or later, it was this on the 19th. So I'm a little, as the illustrious Wayne Campbell said, I'm a little older, I'm a little wiser. No, I haven't really got a chance to celebrate. It's been a busy week, as you and I talked offline, with lots of kid stuff after school and things like that. That basically saying if we're gonna celebrate, I want to celebrate with my family, celebrate with my kids. So come home from work tomorrow, birthday celebrations begin, going out with my wife on Saturday night, nice dinner, and seeing one of my favorite comedians, Mark Maron, in concert. So I'm a huge Mark Maron fan, so I'm very excited about that. Relax, get some good laughs, get some good eats, and enjoy the time. So, but it was nice, going into my birthday, seeing this episode and just getting the chance to actually see it more than once, because typically I usually don't get to see the episodes more than once just because of timing and building the show notes and everything like that. So I was able to find the time to get to watch it both.
Yeah,
But yes.
these Tuesday drops have been a blessing for being able to get in multiple viewings and being able to truly dissect the episode. First episode is my watching reaction, second episode is my dissecting, and having that extra day to truly take it in is man, please Tuesdays more of.
Yeah, no, it's good, and I'm always been a big believer. Marvel doing the Tuesday drops, it gives me a chance to kind of not rush show notes if I can't do them that night. Gives me that shot, gives me a chance to possibly watch it again. Now, when they do two episode drops, like they did the first two, and then next week when they're doing two episode drops, I don't know if I'll be able to get both of them in, but again, we will try. So, but
Yeah.
let us get before we go into going down to talk about episode 4, we'll do the lovely network plugs. So we are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance network. with a covering the wide range of geek and nerdom with all our shows. To see the full schedule, check out the show notes below and subscribe to the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GWayPod Network so you know when all the shows drop. We also have a Patreon, so if you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we've got two tiers. As our ad tier is our $1 tier is our tip jar to say, hey, you think we're doing a good job? And then we've got our $5 tier with ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon exclusive shows, including our first show that Brent and I did. We can watch this all day, the Infinity Saga rewatch. 24 episodes where Brent and I broke down every single movie that is considered part of the Infinity Saga, and then our other show, Tales from the House of X, where we looked at our favorite movies from the Fox era of X-Men. So lovely back content for you there. DC Alliance is doing their DC film through the years. Joe is doing his Multiverse Minutes deep dives with Disney deep dives, and looking at every animated movie or animated adjacent movie through the Disney catalog in chronological order. So a lot of other back content that you can catch up on there. We want to thank our patrons. We can't do this without your support. And if you're not a member of our Patreon, go to www.patreon.com/GUA network to get get all the lovely content. Join the Patreon. But if you can't be a member of our Patreon for one reason or another, we totally understand. Go to and if you can take 30 to 90 seconds, rate and review us on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, we greatly appreciate it. And last but certainly not least, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for your omnibus hardcover collected edition needs. JP and the crew at OPB have got it going on with excellent customer service, immaculate packaging, ships around the world. Earn rewards to get, discounts and free books. So we've got some of these pre-orders. We got these new kind of collected editions that Marvel's putting out called the Marvel Premiere Collection. So these are basically storylines that are kind of part of this elite group of storylines that they're collecting in a different way. So you got Fantastic Four, Solve Everything, Civil War, Hawkeye, My Life as a Weapon, and a lot of great collected editions that are coming out. But use that code MARVELGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order. You can use it a limited amount of times and let them know you're a listener. And we want to thank them for being our official sponsor. All right. Episode 4, Sic Semper Systema. So, besides what we just kind of talked about with Mr. Castle returning, and we don't, and as expected, we don't get the return at the end, but my goodness, it was a heck of a return. Overall, high level thoughts outside of Mr. Castle returning. What'd you think of this episode?
I thought that this was, in my opinion, my top episode so far of the season. Again, Punisher does lead a little bit into that, but it wasn't just the Punisher aspect. The writing as a whole was just amazing. And one of the writers of this, I found out later, is a real life screenwriter slash lawyer. So he comes in a lot of times on various shows for when they have a very law heavy, and this one was law heavy. I even liked the secondary story of Matt in the courtroom and really putting on with Leroy that he is, as he said in Spider-Man No Way Home, a really good lawyer. So all of those aspects of that, this was every facet of Daredevil, and I loved it. Even though we still haven't got him donning the full suit yet, again, going back to that, but everything else about this was just amazing, and it just blew me away.
Yeah, this is, we've heard rumors from Scooper Madness on, the truth behind, it's the supposed truth behind what changed, what didn't change, where these episodes lies. David and I, we might talk about that from here and there as we go through the rest of the season. Um, but the thing what always made Daredevil great on the Netflix was the character development. I'm just gonna put it out there. Like the fight scenes are great, but that's not what made Daredevil stand out. It was the a lot of different back and forth, the character development, the growth and the journey that these characters go on. And we said it before. And I want to go back and first acknowledge. I want to thank first Travis for stepping in for me last week when I was away on my vacation in Disney World and things along that nature. So thank you, Travis, for doing that. And Travis will be back next week as you step out. Um, but the uh, the idea of how we get through the to the point where Matt's coming back, and we know he's going to don the suit. It's as the opening credits show, like everything around him has been torn down. Everything he's believed in, everything he's held dear, ended the night that Foggy died. Not really. Um, sorry, I'm still holding the true to that. Um,
Allegedly.
allegedly. So, but we see, we start seeing the end of it, and this, in my opinion, I'm gonna put it out there. This is the turning point episode for Matt because the title of the episode being Six Semper Systema, it means thus always to the system. And we'll talk a little bit about that, maybe, but that's the translation from the Latin. And everyone's Six Semper Tyrannis, what Booth said after he killed Lincoln. There's a thing in this idea of Matt is starting to realize that everything, and you hear it at the end when he's talking with Frank, everything that he thought he could do in honoring Foggy, it's not going to work. It just does,
Yeah.
like it's just like
Mhm.
playing by the rules, and even he doesn't play by the rules necessarily fully either. We even see that in when he's talking with the DA or the ADA in the courtroom with Leroy. Like he's not always playing by the rules. Like he's not saying plast and loose, but he's using everything he can to get to what's best for his client. It's not illegal. It's just the way things are, but it's not. It's a gray area. He lives in the
Yeah.
gray. He's always lived in the gray. But I think this episode to me is definitely the best of the season because of so much going on. But I think there's something to be said, and I'll bring it up later. What I think there's something the show is missing, and I'm wondering if next season we're going to get a lot more of it. So I'll hold that thought in a little bit. I think it's missing something, and it could make the show go back to the elevation of where we are as the Netflix. So, any more high level thoughts before we break over the spoiler wall?
Nope. I'm ready to deep dive on into this.
Yeah. So, all right. So, listeners, if you have not watched episode 4, Six Semper Systema from Daredevil Born Again, stop, watch, come on back because we're about to jump over the spoiler wall. So, as we said, these ads keep on the lights at the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what lights come on. Ads come on. Those words are tough. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. Give you that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. So the title, thus always to the system is it means the system is flawed and must fall and ties into the theme of this episode. The theme, in my opinion, of this episode is forgiveness. Um,
Yes.
in the very first opening moments, it directly addresses the shocking cliffhanger of what we left there. Seeing I knowing comic books, I knew White Tiger was not long for this world. But even still, seeing at the end, I mean, literally, when he was getting in the suit, I said, "Oh, it ain't gonna work out well." I didn't think it was gonna be that visceral, but again, this is there. So the execution of White Tiger by, and we all knew it wasn't gonna be Frank. It wasn't Frank. It was meant to look
Yeah.
at, but from what if Scooper Madness is to be believed, the original shot of this, it wasn't clear. There was no Punisher thing. They didn't. They had to reshoot it in order to make it clear that the Punisher logo. Also, to think like this isn't Frank either. It's a corrupt cop. Which corrupt cop? We know who it isn't in this episode, but we don't know who did it. Um, so the recently acquitted Hector Ayala is now, we don't see a body necessarily, um, but murdered by this unknown assailant, and the detail unknown to Matt that he just doesn't know whose it is. So we see his life reduced, and we open it with his life reduced to a series of objects that remains of his, from his mask to the amulet, which was a cool detail. Finding out from Phase Hero Brandon Davis talking to the director of it, saying they shot different versions of it, where one of them looks like the amulet lit up as the niece went by. They definitely didn't put that one in there. Would have been cool, but they didn't.
I would have liked to see that, knowing after the fact.
Yeah.
So when I first saw it, I did not know this in that moment. So it wasn't anything that changed my view of it. But knowing after the fact, I went back and was like, that on my second viewing, I've been like, that would have been a cool little mini
It would have
moment.
been. It would have been very Marvel too to do it. It would have been fine. I would have been all for it at that point. I
Yeah.
would. It would not be eye rolly. Um, but Murdoch's present at the autopsy, which drops in a few inciting hints as to who is responsible for this grisly murder. So just then, he's interrupted by Hector's niece, Angela Del Toro, who's played by Camila Rodriguez. And let me just tell you, wow. Talk about 5 minutes of rocking a scene and owning it.
She
I cannot
delivers.
wait to. I can't wait to see what she does next, because if this is her calling card. Yeah, she's something special.
She absolutely delivered. She maximized her minutes on screen, everything about her. And, I know some people get a little bit iffy with kids and some of the fruity language that was used, but I mean, she had this feel of a hurt girl who just, as she put it, she just wanted to see her Tio. She just wanted to
Hmm.
see her uncle. She felt that, and her questioning to Matt, like, "Oh, you got him out of jail. How did that work for you? Oh,
Yeah.
these cops, yeah, you got them off for that, but hey, look, they got him anyway. What are you going to do about this?"
Hmm.
And everything about her, it felt real. It felt, her feelings felt visceral. It felt like those were true feelings of someone who has lived this experience of losing a loved one in this fashion. And like I said, she maximized those moments.
Yeah, I mean, as we talked about before with the history of White Tiger in the comics, she does eventually inherit and succeed in the idea of, um, taking over for White Tiger. So we don't know. Phil in the chat. Hey Phil, thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Hope to see you tomorrow night. And yep. Oh, look at that. David. Jeez, I'm feeling left out. I need to go find that shirt, I
I,
guess.
I packed this shirt specifically for today. It was literally sitting on the top of my suitcase.
There you go. So, but yeah, and people can always go and think, "Oh my God, they're I don't get the real world out of my show, this, that, and the other." But I applaud them. This is not the show. This is not everyone saying every cop is necessarily, a bad cop or anything like that. But I will say this. This is very common in a lot of different communities, that this is the thing, because that's the history they have felt. This is the history. This is what they have experienced. And like it or not, them confronting this and putting it out there, yeah, you could say, "Oh, we've heard it all before," but to not acknowledge it and to like not pass this moment by, again, they're bringing out a point. It's like, these are how these communities feel. Whether you agree with it or not, it doesn't matter. This is how they feel. You can't tell a group of people saying you can't feel that way. No, no, this is how they feel because there is a history behind it.
Yeah. And I mean, that's something that within the real life society that sometimes we have to remember is the way that situations and things, real life events make people feel is dependent upon the person. We cannot judge someone's feelings. We cannot say, because I feel this way, you need to feel that way. Things affect people differently based upon location, history, upbringing, everything else. This was her community. This is her upbringing. This is her life. And she saw it crash down. And this is her feelings about what she felt was a corrupt system, something she had seen, a reason that her uncle donned the mask in the first place. And she just watched it fail somebody and fail somebody that she loved. And she wants to
Hmm.
know, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, and that's the first crack. The system needs to fall. And he realized that when he tried to play a big card in revealing who he was in order to get his client off, big risk, big risk in the sense of, yeah, he got off, but at what cost? His
Yeah,
life. Then remember that life, you know? So, and she wants to see him. He's like, I'm not taking to see him. Let's get out of here. Let's do it. So we pan out to now. Here's the thing. Before we get to it, you think we're getting her in the Young Avengers, or is this one of those that we're just, if we in the comics world know this is going to be a thing while everyone else doesn't, and it never gets picked up again? Do you see this as kind of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to us who've been in the comics, or do you see them actually doing something with this and her
there
taking
is
on it?
a there is a better than not chance. I will say it's even more than a non-zero chance. Right now, I've had it sitting around 30% chance, only because we know that Kamala Khan's father will be in this show.
Oh God, you're right. I
So
totally forgot about that. If we're gonna see that, yeah.
how that will tie everything together, I'm not quite sure if she will be brought back a part of the Young Avengers or not. I could see it going that way. Um, but I could also see the fact that the Young Avengers will be more mainstream Disney,
Hmm.
and as this language has shown and as this tone has shown, I don't know if she lends herself to mainstream Disney just yet.
Yep, we'll have to see. So then we see graffiti images of Kingpin, and again with the two halves. The lighter half is showing the city within him likes its part of his essence, and he controls all aspects of the system. The other half, darker, and his hidden self overseeing basically what we see as hell. We also see the Punisher triggered graffiti and the running paint. I caught this my second watch. The running paint at the bottom of the skull is the Statue of Liberty, meaning the city is shaped by vigilante justice.
And also on the Kingpin's mural, and where in the word king, there is a outline of the dollar bill. So the symbolism
Yes.
of the dollar bill, the eye from the dollar bill, it's all in the king aspect of it. And the eye of the word king is made up of the Empire State Building. The pin part is his darker side, that's the flames and everything.
Hmm.
But the king aspect is very centered around money and his control.
Yeah. Um, So we get a preview a couple times this episode. Right now, we see Muse carrying his newest victim into the railroad tunnels. Just very creepy, very Silence of the Lambs like, and we don't know necessarily. We know because we've been reading Soul's Run, so we know where we're headed with this. But for those of you who don't, and don't follow us along with Comic Book Club, well, you got a very interesting look at what Muse is all about at the end of this episode. But we get a checking in with Muse point of the show. We then cut to Daniel Blake, aka Michael Gandolfini, goes out to a club with BB Urich, even though he's already figured out that she's used him before, but he's, I don't know, lovesick puppy dog, needs a lot of friends. I don't know. But he's out clubbing with her, and the pretext that the two are friends, I just don't know, or just hanging out, but BB has ulterior motives. When Daniel starts to slip up after a few drinks about what's going on and the stuff at the docks, and he reveals details about Fisk recycling ideas at the port, and she brings up the idea of unions, and he kind of thinks, oh, we're going to get around that, and that's all she needed. And she was trying to entice him to come out and stay out because she knows if he continues to drink, he'll be given more of a story. So we'll
Yeah, this is definitely a one-sided friendship, and it's becoming quite obvious. I mean, she kind of pokes and prods the bear in order to get him some information. She says this
yep.
whole, "Oh, you're young and you have to be in by 8." He's like, "Well, actually 7 because you have important stuff." She's like, "No, live the high life. We should go to this bar, and then hop in a cab. You then catch the L train. You sleep on the way. You arrive just in time to wrench your mouth out, go to work, and let's do it
Well,
all again tomorrow." And he's like,
well,
"I don't live this life."
well, if he catches the L train, it's gonna be like Daredevil with Ben Affleck. Yeah, that's that. Be careful for that C train though. That C train's a killer, I hear.
Yeah. So it's just she's definitely hitting his sense of masculinity in this to if I poke you enough. you're going to end up staying. And then if I give you enough drinks, you're going to end up talking, and I'm going to get a story, which is exactly what happened. And then after she got her story, she was more than willing to say, "Okay, yeah, you need to go home and sleep. Cool, we'll get you a cab."
Yeah. So, um, flashback to even in the wake of this tragedy, Laura's work is never done, and you see, would we call it brooding? Matt Murdock at the top of his roof, just hanging out. It looks to be kind of uh, heading into dawn. Kristen McDuffie, his partner in his firm, gets a call, gives Matt a call saying, "Hey, she needs some help. We own the what'd she say? The defense side, a freebie at
We,
that point. Public defender.
we,
We owe the public defenders a freebie because
yeah.
she's knee deep in a case of with this Madison girl. What do we do? Do we think it's Madison with two N's and one Y, but it's not where you think?
I would love for that to be the case. I don't think it is.
I don't think it
I
is
al-
either.
I also wonder if it's in relation to the Madison case from I'm trying to remember the Tom Cruise movie right now with Jack Nicholson. That's the court drama, because that was an Alan Sorkin movie that was like the end all be all of court writing, and so uh, in that movie they mention the Madison case a lot, and so I don't know if that is just a okay, we are going to grab a known movie and or a known case and make this the thing that we say, even though it has nothing to do with it. But I don't think it has anything to do with our favorite Madison. I wish it did.
Yeah.
I definitely wish it did, but I don't think that it has anything to do with that.
Yeah, I think it's just a fun coincidence, and I don't know if anyone in the writers' room did it as a joke or it just happened to be, like we said, just interesting coincidence. So, but Matt said, "Yeah, I'll help you out." So he's serving as a counsel for a man named Leroy, played by Charlie Hudson III. He's a repeat offender who has been arrested on charges of petty larceny. Now, we did see Leroy after the club scene with. Mr. Blake, and we see him getting arrested, and the cops are like eating what we come know as the meme worthy thing of the fiddle faddle. And he's saying, why are you eating that? That was that you didn't pay. That was that's evidence." And he's like, "I paid for this," and it's just it's a juxtaposition of everything that's going on, and it's a referendum on what it is and how people are treated at that point and who has
Yeah.
power. Um,
I did laugh at his line when the cops were come to arrest him and they're eating the fiddle faddle, and they're like, "Well, it's ours now." And he's like, "Okay, but Fatty can't have any." And then that's when he
yeah,
actually gets arrested. That's when they're
yep.
tired of his stuff.
Exactly. He says Leroy's very evasive when Matt first talks to him. He denies stealing the fiddle faddle, which is actually a real product. Look it up. And when Matt reminds him that the convenience store has cameras, he claims that he paid for the boxes a week earlier. And Matt's like, "That's not how that works. That's how
Yeah.
any of that works." When I heard that, I had to go back and say, "What did he just say?" um,
Like
and then he makes a suggestion to, well, could it be my Skrull doppelganger? That
that
lest
popped
we,
me.
yeah, lest we forget, we must continue to acknowledge that the cluster of that show. Matt just
The scrolls.
Matt just basically shuts down the whole idea of him having to scroll down. It's like, no. Or as one of the favorite memes we have in our GUA chat that Mr. Snell likes using with Matt Reeves, interesting.
Yeah.
No.
They have the power to shapeshift, and they shapeshifted into a petty thief to steal some fiddle faddle.
Yeah, exactly. So, despite this elusives with the truth, Leroy demands he's not going to serve any jail time. He wants probation. Period. Nothing else. He'll go to trial. He's not going to just do anything more than that. So Matt does meet with the ADA, the city prosecution, Sophia Azola, and it becomes kind of a big flirt session because we've always said
Oh yeah.
Matt, yeah, it's quite a trip watching Mr. Murdoch charm his way towards a favorable sentence for Leroy. The two exhibit some serious chemistry. Just observe how she ogles Mr. Matt as he leaves the room. More so, especially when he uses his heightened senses to say, like, she had some, what was it, a butter cake or something like that?
Yep, she had butter cake for Latvian Heritage Day.
Yep. So so he charms his way down to only serving 10 him to only serve 10 days in jail. Um and that's an amazing gift, but like when he tells Leroy that, Leroy just loses it on him, said, "No. I didn't want anything." And he's like, "Your lowest amount of jail time has been 20 days. Like that was a gift. This is a miracle." And he like Matt just is completely oblivious. And this was an interesting part of the show because Leroy brings out a lot of points that is an unfortunate thing of a reality that he has spent his whole life being mistreated by the system that consistently discriminates him. It's yet another reason. He says like this system, it's going to be like the amount of money to put him in jail for 10 days exceeds the amount. He said they would rather put me in jail, spend more money putting me in jail than just to feed me. He says, "Yeah, I've had to. The last time I got put on this whole pathway, I got dinged for probation violation. I missed my my Social Security appointment for benefits. I got cut off." And yeah, I'm digging through dumpsters from grocery dumpsters to get food. And sometimes, yeah, I want a little dessert. And
Yeah.
the show's not necessarily saying that like we ignore like crimes when they happen, but it's an interesting kind of perspective to put it on. Like we spend so much money on prisons, and what do we do to fix the we don't do anything to fix the systemic problem.
This was a perfect speech, probably second best speech in the episode. Um, and he touched on a lot of points. Not only did he touch on a lot of correct points, that again, it's a reflection on society. I looked it up afterwards because I mean I've heard stats on this before, but right now I believe to incarcerate a federal inmate is roughly $116 a day
Hmm.
when his fiddle faddle probably costs anywhere from 10 to 12 bucks. And that was for 5 boxes,
Yeah,
10 to 12 bucks whole. And
yeah,
so he's right. You guys would rather, I think his full sentence was for 10 days. He will serve seven and count the day that he was in as one. So
yeah,
Matt was like, you'll be in for the weekend plus a little bit, but you'll be out by next weekend. Boom, bam, you're good to go. And he's like, no, like these moments of time ruin my life over something so petty, and yet it's all because I got cut off from my benefits. I got dinged by my parole officer. Like this is just a circle that I'm going to be in, and if you incarcerate me, I will just be back in that circle. How am I
yeah.
supposed to come up if you will not let me out of the hamster wheel that is this system? And it's just one more cutaway at Matt's feelings about the legal system and where it's at and how effective it is.
Yeah, it's where someone's freedom is determined by whether a stranger in power happens to be in a good mood, while another
Yeah.
shows a willingness to go above and beyond in a pro bono advocacy for a multiple offender. While Matt does secure the leniency, it's another setback for his client. Um, and so, and then we get an interesting confrontation with Officer Powell and Matt trying to see if he can, whether his listen to his heartbeat or anything like that, tell if he knows who did it or if he was the one who killed Hector. And, it's, you know, Powell putting up against the wall, shoving his badge into his chest, saying, I've worn this badge, my brothers wear this badge, my cousins wear this badge, my father, my grandfather, like, and he can tell like his heartbeat doesn't miss anything, like it doesn't give him anything, so he's not a part of it, and he's not lying about being any part of it. So Matt's still turning up nothing. So. But let's take our next ad break before we continue on with the episode. So, as you actually no, we got a little. Let's see. Yeah, we can make it through. We get this. Um, Yeah, let's just take the ad break. So, all right, listeners, we're going to take our next ad break. So, you know, these, uh, uh, again, words are very tough for me tonight. It's been a long week. So, as you know, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on. They can be a bit loud. Give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. All right, and we are back. So it's been a little bit. Let's go visit to see what's happening with Mr. Wilson Fisk. See exactly what's
Oh,
going on with him. So, all right. So, to quote another famous fictional politician, Fisk is the kind of person who likes to get things done, even while he's on the verge of a divorce after implying he murdered and/or intimidated the man that Vanessa had an affair with. Um, Vanessa reveals that this is all during their therapy session, mind you, with Heather, who's Matt's boo. Vanessa reveals that she was drawn to Adam by his hands and the art he drew. They're like clay. She also reveals that she was initially attracted to him because they both attracted to Wilson because um, they both had abusive fathers.
everyone in the show
And
has daddy issues. Everyone in the history of Daredevil has some sort of daddy issues. I told
uh,
Brent that today. We were together. Our no, it was yesterday. We went to go get some lunch together, and we were talking about it. And I go, everyone in this show has some form of daddy issues.
yep. And she also sees that he was a violent man like her father, so seducing him gave her control over that violence. They both feel that the other betrayed them, but Heather says they can't move past this until they forgive each other. Again, forgiveness, as Detail in chat saying. Kingpin had a dialogue. Yes, we'll see exactly as we see what that dialogue is. He also likes to get things done as quickly and as efficiently as possible, which is why he wants to bring business back to the so-called Red Hook part of the District of New York. Sadly, not even Fisk's bullish determination get past city codes and red tape, and the new mayor does begrudgingly agree to go through the process. Now, this is one of the things like his like I don't know her title. Is he chief of staff at that point? Is that what we want to call her?
Yeah,
Um, Basically says like you can't just do this. You have to first apply for this. You have to do this. It's like, well, how do I go about doing that? Like he is so used to just as the mob boss that he was, the crime lord that he was. He just said it and it happened. Now
yeah.
he's in government and realizes, yeah, you have to do certain things. You can't just steamroll your way through this. And I'm wondering how long that's going to last with him because he's still playing ball throughout this episode of how he's going to go about it because he eventually relents to that even though Daniel is saying like, oh yeah, you should do that, then they as they walk away he's like, oh yeah, you said all the things I was gonna say, I just let you do it. It's like you're an idiot. God.
Yeah, it was funny to see him say, "All right, well, this is what I want. Let's make this happen." And his chief of staff is like, "Well, in order to do that, we need to get the approval of the city council." He goes, "Okay." He goes, "Well, in order to do that, we must first get the approval of this agency." All right, make it happen. Well, before we can do that, we must first get permission. We'll get permission. Well, before we do that, we have to talk to this other guy who puts us on the docket to get permission. Finally, he's like, is this where it starts? She's like, yes, that is where it starts. He goes, fine, do it where it starts,
Whatever.
but get it done. It's all these layers that he doesn't understand. This isn't the mob world where you just show up, punch a guy in the face, establish dominance, and you have your way. There's so many layers to this red tape, and her laying that out. And then um, having that moment afterwards of them walking away and him like, everything you said, yeah, I was gonna say that too. Like
Yeah.
I knew all those steps. I was gonna tell him that as well. But this is
Mhm.
also the same time that we start to learn that too much mouth running has come to bite the campaign in the butt.
Yep. So Fisk not only because he's told he has a full day, he's just getting all excited, and then he has to sit through not one but two very bad covers of "We Built This City." Um, And I must have missed a campaign rally. They must have been something shot that I'm assuming this probably was what they used during his campaign rallies because like two different, like the kids and then
The
the
official
Latvians.
song,
The
yeah.
Latvians, yeah, it had to be that by Starship. And I love that what we found out with Faye's Hero, with the director saying they had to redo the recording because the kids sounded too good and they wanted to make it sound bad and just because that way it's just like because they're apparently they're a really good choir group, and then the Latvians chorusing the same thing. You just see him, but as he's heading to the Latvian celebration, well, as the kids are singing, D- Daniel sees exactly the story that BB posted, shows it to the chief of staff, and it says like Kingpin's a union buster.
Mayor Garbage.
Yeah, Mayor Garbage, and Daniel tells her like he's the leak. He didn't know that that was gonna happen, and she's just like, fine, no, I'm gonna fix this. You're not gonna do anything. I was here before you and him, meaning Fisk. I'm gonna be here long after you. This is what I do. I'm gonna fix this. And she tells Fisk on their way to the Latvian thing that there's been a leak. He loses his mind. He wants, basically whoever did this had a head on a stick to get everyone together. And Fisk is saying, I want the person found. Calls everyone, how dare you betray me? And then Daniel surprisingly steps up and says, it was me. I did it. And
Bold move, Cotton. Let's
yeah,
see if it
but
works out for
it
you.
clears everyone out. The chief of staff doesn't leave. He says, he's my responsibility. I take it as fine. He's about to go busting heads, but Daniel just keeps on saying, I'm really sorry. I know I screwed up. I'm loyal. Even if you fire me, I'm still going to be loyal to you. I'm still going to get votes for you and everything like that. And he basically kind of takes the therapist's advice when he should be forgiving Vanessa and moving on. He ends up forgiving the sad puppy dog of Daniel, who's completely useless, at least in my opinion. And all I could think of, because he gets to keep his job, all I could think of, and I wasn't the only one who thought this, saying, oh, yeah, you're going to be used at this point, and it's going to be like Penguin and What's His Face. And you're going to meet a very tragic end at some point, either going to jail, getting killed, or maybe both at the same time, because you are so loyal to Kingpin.
Yeah, I got the feeling that a lot of this was based upon the fact that he kept saying, I'm loyal to you, I'm loyal to you. And that's what resonated with this was the loyalty aspect. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
had he not kept saying, I'm loyal to the end, I will support your campaign. And I think with everything that Fisk has been through, that loyalty is what made him turn and say, all right, I've met people, I've been disappointed by people, but I'm not going to fire you because he kept stating that, hey, I messed up, I own it, but I'm loyal to you and I will do whatever you need. And so now he sees that Daniel is someone that he can use in his campaign. He can mold the way that he needs to.
Yeah, it's again, like you said, someone he can use. So it'll be very interesting to see exactly how that ends up happening. Um, the scratch for Justice, he just can't help it. Matt decides to engage in some detective work to see where Hector died. To see because one of the biggest things he asked the coroner was like, "Where's the bullet casing?" He's like, "It's not there. I don't know where it is, and I don't care. It's not my responsibility to find that." So he goes to the scene of the crime, and he ends up kind of using a bottle to see how it kind of rolls off, because that's where the casing would, and ends up finding the shell casing in the gutter. Convenient, because why? Protagonist and plot. Um, and gets the casing and feels it, and what we end up finding out later on is revealed that he feels basically is a Punisher insignia etched onto the casing, and for some reason, and we don't really get an explanation of this. I don't know if we are getting an explanation of this. He knows exactly. He walks off, and he basically ends up walking into where we find Frank Castle hiding out. We don't know how he knows this. We don't know why he knows this. He just knows it, and this is where it is. He's had this information the whole time. Now, Castle somehow looks even more distraught and grumpy than he usually does, if that's hard to believe. And I was kind of like, oh God, please don't say he's retired again. I just don't want to go through this whole thing again. But he proves to be one of the best things to come out of Netflix is John Bernthal, and I agree with Travis Snell when he said like there's so many there's a small group of amazing castings that have been done in this era of Marvel MCU or Marvel Netflix at this point. John Bernthal it goes down in history as nothing to take away from the other Punishers, but he is who I read and hear when I read Punisher in the comics. Like that, his voice, his gravitas he brings to the role, he turns a character that one could be considered a one note, unassuming, just standard blow 'em away character, and he brings so much depth to it. The best in the show by a long shot. Frank forces Matt to confront his retirement as Daredevil like never before. Ever what we thought, ever since in 4 episodes of the show, no one has forced Matt to look at this, and he calls Matt Red. This officially confirms that a thing that we have all wondered: does Frank know Matt is Daredevil? Now we see in the courtroom when he in season 2 that you can kind of see Frank's wheel start spinning in the sense of when Matt's like talking to him on the stand and everything like that. There is never an official acknowledgement, either in Punisher or Daredevil, that Frank knows that Matt Murdock is Daredevil. This confirms that we don't know when it happened, how it happened, but he knows Matt is Daredevil.
Yeah, he even makes a line when he's talking about him, and he says something about, get dressed up in your little clown suit. Like he's making mention not only just with calling him Red, but he's saying, "Hey, you want my permission to go out there and hurt someone?" He knows what Matt's been doing. He knows exactly what's going on, and he is pushing every button to inspire Matt to be who Matt wants to be. He's not pushing him to be someone he's not. He's saying, "Hey, this is who you are." And every part about his speech, when they're talking about Hector and he's saying, just say his name. And then Frank's moment of saying, like, I get it. Like you failed him and it's haunting you. You see him just like I see my little boy. I see my little boy all the time. And he's saying, Daddy, go get him. Go get those guys and put them down. Like everything about that, the psyche of who Frank is and why he does it. I mean, this was just to the point where he pisses Matt off so much. Matt just lays into him and then reaches for his neck before he stops and starts
Yeah.
apologizing profusely. Frank never reacts because Frank knows exactly. He goes, I'm awakening. I'm awakening who you want to be.
Yeah, he goes, you hate yourself. It's eating you up because you ain't done a gosh darn thing about it. He hits him at that moment, and he says, "God dang it, why?" Because he's apologizing to him, and like Frank didn't even flinch like even before they apologized. Like he wasn't
Yeah.
gonna go after him. He says, "I'm sorry, I apologize." What are you sorry for? That's the most honest thing you have done. He says, "First honest thing you've done, Red."
Yeah.
And he says it's not about him though, okay? And he's holding something back, and Frank said it's all about him. And
Yeah.
he talks to you, doesn't, as you said, like you hear his voice. You do, don't you? Every time I stop moving, I still hear my little boy, as you said, and I see him. I hear like that's any parent that's lost their kid, and in this case, like that's his best friend in Foggy, and just like Frank, like doing this, like if you have never seen Punisher season 1 and 2, or even seen season 2 of Daredevil, like this is who Frank Castle. In this moment, you encompass everything that what Frank Castle is. And he said, "That's why I see in you. That's why I see in you because you didn't do anything, and it's gonna keep eating at you and eating at you and eating at you." Um, and he like you pointed out too, like he says like you didn't come to me for anything but like you wanted validation saying it's okay to put it on. He said, "I'm not going to
Yeah.
give that to you. I'm not going to be used by you." Matt even calls him out saying, "What are you doing out here? Are you doing?" Oh, he's working. So we know he hasn't hung up the Punisher garb. He's working something, and I have. it'll be interesting to see what exactly he's doing, what he's looking into. Um, yeah, detail. Yeah, almost shed a tear to see, especially when we get to this point where Matt says, Foggy was the kindest, purest soul I ever met. Guys like you and me, we can work a lifetime and never measure to his decency. And that's
Yeah.
the truth. That they are not they're a different class, and Foggy would always try to get Matt to do. And this is why Matt hung it up, because I'm going to do right by Foggy, and he realizes that that's just not possible. Like, he
Yeah.
basically, as Frank tells him, it's like, I'm not gonna play your dress up stuff. Like, he brings it back, and this is always the interesting dynamic of between Frank Castle and Daredevil, Frank Castle and Captain America, Frank Castle and Spider Man. He's had run-ins with all of them, and he says, and he even puts it up in that season 2 scene. It's like, you put him in jail within months or a year, they're out. I take care of them. They stay down. And it goes back to a scene that we've talked about, like going to the other side of the distinguished competition, where Batman talks to Red Hood, and he's like, why do you continue to just continue putting these criminals away at that point? Why I can put them down permanently?" And he says and he's been referring to Joker, that every time I always think about, like, if I just give in, because it's too easy. It's too easy to give in like that. And once I go down that pathway, I'll never go back.
Yeah.
And we've seen Matt in the comics having to deal with that too many different times, where he's crossed that line. He crossed that line in this show by killing by what he thought was killing Bullseye, but he left because he knew, like, I don't know if I can handle this anymore. Um, and this begins this is the final straw for Matt. Like, we see it at the end when he's when he's going back in the roof and starting the training, which we'll get to in just a little bit. But this is obviously not going to be the last time we see Frank Castle. But man, what a reintroduction into him by this show. He's not even in Punisher garb, but man, John Bernthal is just in a that. This is what acting is.
Yes. So the moment when they're talking and he's saying, you don't do what needs to be done. Like, and he's talking about Bullseye. He goes, when he wakes up, he goes and he's in prison. And he goes and he eats his chow and he's breathing fresh air. And Matt goes, he got life. He goes, yeah. And what about Foggy?
Foggy.
And that just like the look on Matt's face and everything about Frank. So this started to remind me when he was talking about uh to Matt and how Matt can't do what he does. It not only gave me thoughts about the upcoming special, but it reminded me of when Frank confronted the police in the comic books who were idolizing him.
Oh, we're gonna get that
And
scene this season. I guarantee you, we're getting that
yeah,
scene.
and he's like, you know, if I find out you're doing what I do, I'm coming for you next. And they're like, excuse me, is that a threat? And he's like, I'll say this once, we are not the same. You took an oath to uphold the law, you help people. I gave that up a long time ago. Like, what I do because I want to. You boys need a role model, and his name is Captain America. He'd be happy to have you. I ain't him. And so but that's what I felt when he was talking to Matt was like, I know what I'm doing. Putting down the bad guys. I'm putting down who needs to be put down.
Yeah.
You want to be more? I'm not here to give you permission. I gave myself permission. You need to find this within
Yeah.
yourself.
You need to forgive yourself and move on.
Once
Um,
again, that F word.
yep. Matt's not the only one who has to confront his past to decide if he wants to dig up the buried secret. Fisk is also trying to build a new life for himself, even if it may be all to fulfill his own personal gains and ambitions. As is on brand with Fisk, he spends much of the episode being at the mercy of society's rules and government restrictions, but he's hiding something from the rest of the world. Not only does he still have we see him walk down during the ending sequence, walking down the stairs, his descent into hell, as it were. We see him walk by a very famous painting, the what was it, the the white painting. I can't remember the name
The
of it.
rabbit in the snow or
The
something.
rabbit in the snow. Yep, because it reminds him of when he was told by his father to stare at the wall. It gives him peace at that point, but was still the blood spatter from the end of season 3, still there. and he's sitting down at a table eating a very luxurious pasta meal with sausage at that point, very different from when he's above ground trying to eat right and portray this. So he's falling back in line. And we see, um, you know, that white blood spatter. I want to say that's his original sin, but he also
Yeah.
has Adam in prison, locked up, looking. God knows how long he's been there. We don't even know what Adam looked like before, and just
Yeah.
eating and basically asking to be released and everything like that. And juxtaposition with this scene, we see Matt talking with Heather, saying, "You ever feel like you are pushing a rock up a hill, symbolizing his anger at the system, like, and it continues to fall down on him." And Matt gets to his rooftop after, waking up late at night with in bed with Heather, and his secret room, and we see all those helmets, including the one he's gonna don again, and starts training again to get ready to put on a superhero attire. And this is the first time he's in over a year that he's had to do that. And before the credits roll, we finally get our first good look at New York City's newest antagonist. We go back to Muse, and he's got some poor soul and string of bodies around him, and he's stealing the blood to create another disgusting painting at that point. So one of the things I talked about at the beginning of the show is like something I think the show has lost. Not now. It hasn't happened yet. Um, I think, and it's just a small critique, that this is pretty much a show focused on Matt and Wilson Fisk. The Netflix show would always have some B or C plots. We can't say Muse is a B or C plot yet because it's not anything yet. We've gotten too many little glimpses that it may come to be a C plot, but it's going to be elevated to the main antagonist. We just don't have a lot of supporting cast that I care about and that they're really focusing on. And if that's the purpose of this season is to reestablish it, that's fine. That's fine. But I think one of the things that made the Netflix show we actually started caring about like some of these characters, and I really don't care. I really don't have any connection to anyone outside of Wilson and Matt. And that's okay right now. But I hope they do bring some of that back because I think that's also what made the Netflix show good, that some of the B and C plots were actually things that eventually came together at the end. They all ran together at the end. So I don't know. What do you feel about that?
I would definitely agree with that. One thing that I have always loved about Daredevil, not only as a comic book character, but also with the original show, is that you felt a sense of urgency for the side characters and what they were going through. Their storylines mattered. What was going on mattered. Everything with Ben Urich and Karen, like it, there was weight to it, and I just don't feel like outside of what's going on with Matt and what's going on with Wilson Fisk, that there's any weight to any of the other characters or their subplots. I have a feeling that more will be revealed with Matt and his girlfriend and her being torn between the two. I mean, they even make a comment about how her day was, and she says, "Oh, I dealt with a crazy person here and this person there, and then this out of control couple." And he goes, "None of what you can tell me about." So that may later on, but as of right now, outside of Wilson Fisk and Matt Murdock, there are no stakes for anyone else's characters, and
Yeah.
that does kind of feel flat.
Yeah, I don't really care about Heather too much. I mean, she's more of a means of a like just for the therapist scene. That it's not a connection. Detail in the chat saying, "What suit will he put on? Will he put on the the classic? No, he's gonna put on a darker version of the suit. I still don't think we're getting the DD yet. I just wonder at one point when he's gonna finally earn the DD on the darn suit.
I don't think the true Crimson is coming on until probably the last or next to last episode. I have a feeling that he will go with the darker, the black and red version. But I don't think he's going with the true all Crimson version until closer to the end of season.
Yeah, and I think there's a reason why we're getting 2 episodes next week is because I think we'll finally start seeing him don the suit, but it won't be until probably the end of this first up the episode 5 into episode 6. I think we're still leading up to that charge, but yeah, I think this is the turning point episode that Matt's heading back to the suit. But yeah, best episode of the season. Great to see Mr. John Bernthal back as Frank. A great return. Looking forward to what we have next, and we'll definitely have to get your thoughts on those two episodes when you return in 2 weeks. So, but
Yeah, I can't wait.
yep. So, any final thoughts before we take our next ad break and head into news?
No, like I said, this was an incredible episode. John Bernthal's Frank Castle was the definitive shining point. Can't tell me otherwise. And I am glad that it came this early and I didn't have to wait any longer. I'm glad it came this week.
Exactly. We got to be selfish sometimes, right?
Yep.
So, all right. So before we get into news, we're going to take our next ad break. So listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. Give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. All right, so we actually do have some news this week. A couple of things, nothing real major, but just some interesting stories that came about in the last week or so. So the first one up, we got the Russo brothers going on the record about Avengers, Doomsday, and Secret Wars. So this is coming from the Hollywood Reporter, an interview with both the Russo brothers. Talk about a lot of different things, but I just kind of focused on the stuff with Avengers because, again, I don't care about their new movie. I'm probably not going to watch it. Doesn't really that interest me too much. They say Doomsday is the first MCU movie that you and AGBO will produce. That's their production company. On practical terms, how does that change the equation from your previous MCU movie? Joe Russo says it just involves more of the infrastructure from AGBO than all of the things that we built at the company to help us as filmmakers, the personal infrastructure, as well as the technological advancements from our innovation team. Anthony Russo says we're just excited to bring the storytelling and techniques that we've developed here at the company over the past few years to Marvel. And the Hollywood Reporter says there was a leak on Avengers concept art recently. Often the final movie does not reflect the artwork. Should anyone be worried about they were unwillingly spoiled? Joe said no, because that artwork was not from Avengers Doomsday or Secret Wars. Anthony says nothing spoiling in there. That's not our concept art. That's a very pretty much this is no, that has nothing to do with our film. So my question is, do we believe them? Number one. First question, do we believe them?
In this instance, I am inclined to believe them. There are times when I go, all right, you know what? They're going to try and keep things separate. They don't want people to know too much. In this instance, I do believe them. And only reason I say that is because going back a couple of years, the timeline of the future of the MCU was much different. Since we have switched gears, there is a chance that this could have been commissioned art for what would have
Mm-hmm.
been Kang Dynasty or something else. And now that they have thankfully abandoned that, it's no longer part of the story. So that they could very well be saying, you know what, no, that's not our art. That was stuff that was commissioned for King Dynasty. That was stuff that was commissioned for
Yeah.
another project that's no longer moving forward.
Yeah, I'm also inclined to believe them because, again, like they said, concept art always is what it is, concepts, ideas for our things. And I think you bring out a very good point saying that this could have been abandoned ideas coming from King Dynasty. And that doesn't mean that they can't use it, but they were very emphatic in the sense of, yeah, they could still be lying to us, what have you. But um, I'm just happy that they do acknowledge it instead of saying the company line say we're not talking about that. That would basically
Yeah.
be okay. It's real.
Yeah.
They continued on saying with your previous Avengers movies, there was a now famous set of baseball cards with a card for every Marvel actor, and they included how many movies the actors were contracted for. Was there an equivalent on these movies? How do you figure out who's in these movies? Anthony Russo says, yes, we continue to use the baseball cards. Joe says now they have magnets on them so we can put them on a board and look at them. It's the only way to keep track of the amount of characters that we're working with. Anthony Russo follows up by saying, as far as we as far as how do we look at who's in the movies, it's just a long creative process of exploring where we want to take the story. What is the most surprising and exciting area for us to push into, and which characters help us in that effort? So, where this baseball cards came about was the book that was written about, what was it called, The Marvel Way or something like that.
Yeah.
Looking at kind of all, it was a big expose looking at the behind the scenes stories of Marvel's first 10 plus years. I know I've got it in my Amazon card at one point. I definitely want to read it. I've just heard enough about it that people have basically probably ruined the entire book for me because I'm just curious at that point. It is officially called MCU: The Reign of Marvel Studios. It was written by Joanna Robinson. That's where this story, that's where the baseball cards originally got broken. So they acknowledge that is the truth. I think when I first read this and hearing this, I was like, this I understand what he says. Like, it's part of the creative process. What I would love for him to, either one of them to follow up with, like, but that's not how we write this story, because it comes off by saying, we look at the money values, the dollar values, exactly what it is, and that's how we determine who's going to be in the movie or not. I would have followed up by saying, like, give some clarification, because it comes off by saying, we're going to figure out like who costs more money first and then write a story around that. That's not a good way to write
Or
scripts. That's a
or
problem at that point.
who has a two-picture deal versus a three-picture deal, like who has one more appearance left, who has three, like write the story that works best, and then okay, how can we make this work? I mean, you guys aren't short on money, so we can make this
We,
work.
eh, I mean, I get what he's say. I get what they're both saying. Like, it's good to have that. It's a smart way of looking at it at that point. They should have followed up by saying, but that's not how we're writing the story.
Yeah.
There was something missing here. So we're not trying to take it out of context. It's just, I just didn't like it because it did not play well. That part of the thing did not play well at all. I trust, um, who's our writer for this? Is Marcus or Rick Feely is the one who's came back. Which one? I think it was Marcus, right?
Yes.
Okay, Marcus came back. Um, I trust it. I trust in him, but also he's lost the other half of the writing team. So, again, I'm going to give them, even though the Russo brothers have not had a good post Marvel movies at that point, they're still batting huge when it comes to Marvel movies, but we'll have to wait and see. The last part of this interview, Avatar 2, Deadpool, Wolverine, and Spider-Man No Way Home show that people still will show up to the theater for these massive movies. But given the circumstance theatrical landscape since Endgame, are you approaching these Avengers movie any differently? Joe Russo says, we can't control the economic environment. We can't control what's happening in the world around the time of the release. We can't control the audience's desire to leave their homes or not. All we can do is make the best movie possible in the hope that it excites them. I will say it again. I've said it here. I've said it on the vodka stream. I've said it many times, so many different places. You get people to come out to the movies, not because it's a big splashy thing. You get people to come to the movies by the big splashy thing with a good story. Get a good writer, and yes, Marcus has proven to be a good writer. Yes, we're missing the other half of the team. Good writing will get people out there. Period.
Yeah. The stories will create the word of mouth for those who may be burnt out by the MCU and feeling like, okay, I'm kind of tired of this. I want to move on. When people say you need to see this, people will go out and see this. Um, and so if you create a good story, if you create a reason for people to want to see your movie, then they're going to do that. And the same thing works in the inverse. If you create a piss poor story, or if you don't put your all into the story, then people are going to say, you know what? This is avoidable. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your money, because if you are like me and you have a list, it is what it is when it comes to going to the movies. But for most people, spending $20 a pop or more to go see a movie on a Friday or Saturday night, and that's just for one person, and that's not counting popcorn or any other treats and things like that. You're asking people to spend their hard-earned money. You're asking people to spend the equivalent of a tank of gas to come see your movie, then produce a good story and they will continue to want to see it and they will
Hmm.
go back and want to see it again and again.
Yep, that's what it comes down to. They're just they're the audience is saying like we don't need to see the same old same old. Give us a reason to show up. Period. You give them a reason to show up, and it starts with your story. So,
Yeah.
last part of our news is coming from the Cosmic Circus as an exclusive. So again, this is a I would put Cosmic Circus. They've definitely broken some very pretty big scoops in stories at this point. So I'd put them on a kind of a C plus B minus tier with some of the stuff at that point. They've definitely risen very quickly over the last couple of years. But they say according to their sources, Marvel Studios has been exploring ways to bring their animated properties into Avengers Doomsday, reportedly maintaining the animated format of their characters as well as their respective universes, instead of transitioning a character from animation to live action and vice versa. To put it in simpler terms, they said this is them saying this. We're looking at a possible Space Jam Who Framed Roger Rabbit scenario for the scenes involving these characters. In addition, to clarify, while Miss Minutes is expected to return in Avengers Doomsday, the information regarding these scenes is in addition to Miss Minutes. So, as I say, let's break down the candidates for, then they go into some ideas. Interesting. No.
I don't want it. I don't want it.
Details
I,
agreeing with us. God, please no. Outside of Miss Minutes, I
yes.
think I'm Detail. Are you okay with Miss Minutes? I think we got to be okay with Miss Minutes. She scares the living bejesus out of me every time, but I'm okay with Miss Minutes. Yeah. It's we don't have to do that. There's nothing that is enticing people like, you know, Jeffrey Wright as still doing the voice of the Watcher. We don't need animated Watcher. You can do. We've seen what we've got freaking Celestials. So we don't need to keep. You know, we don't
We've
need to
had the
keep.
Watchers in a post-credit scene
Yes,
already. Like
we
we know what they look
look
like
like
in a
yes.
live action version.
We don't need like they even brought up like Spider Verse characters. No, that's not going to be a thing. Um,
Nope.
we don't need the multiverse. Okay, Detail says the Miss Minutes is fine. I just don't know. I'm sorry. I'm gonna be a hard no on this one. Even they talk about like X-Men 97 characters. No, they're not gonna do that because they're gonna want their proper
Absolutely
introduction
not.
of yeah. No, it's just this just doesn't. It's gonna people are gonna be laughing at this.
Yeah,
I just don't feel this. I think that would not be a smart move on their part.
for the action, for the spectacle that will be an Avengers movie, to then input an animated character will just completely take somebody out of that scene. And don't get me wrong, I am a huge fan of the original Space Jam. I saw the second one once, but I'm a huge fan of the original.
I saw it one
I
more time
love
than I did.
I loved Who Framed Roger Rabbit when I was
I
a
do
kid.
too.
Shouldn't have been watching it, but I loved it as a kid. Like, so those movies on their own, they're great, and let them be what they were. You don't need to have that moment, because what we are going to end up with is closer to, I think it was Chip and Dale that had the mixture of the real and the fake, and you saw the cartoons and you saw like original Sonic and everything. It's just going to be convoluted and not okay, and I don't want that, and I don't want that out of my Avengers movies. Let the animated be the animated. I loved X-Men 97 season 1. I'm excited for where they go and what they make out of that. You know, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man was great. I'm excited for where they're going with that new telling. I can't wait for the third installment of Miles Morales and Across the Spider-Verse. Like, all of those are great, but you
Hmm.
don't need to fold them into this universe just for the sake of, oh, hey, look, we were able to bring Miles in this way. Like, please don't. Just don't.
Yeah, it's just yeah. They don't need to do that. Just yeah, just stay away. I saw
Yeah.
that. I was like, nope. That's a hard no. So Anyway, so let's we'll see exactly what comes of that. But that's all the news for this week. So let's head into our last section of this of the show tonight. No listener questions this week, so nothing came in with that. So let me pull up last week's fact or fiction results coming from Mr. Hines before we get to yours, David, for this week. All right, Mr. Hines has said, all right. Number one, Daredevil, not lawyer Matt Murdock, will appear in the next Spider-Man film. 53% said fact, 47% said fiction. Yes, we all just want to see, we all just want to see uh, in live action. I would like to see it. I don't know. It's too good to pass up. I think I'm just gonna go with my heart. I'd say yes. My heart wants it way too much. Number two, Jean Grey will not appear in the next Spider-Man movie. 94% said fact. I'm also a fact. Uh, Number three, the Punisher special will come out before the Blade Project. 100% of the voters said yes. And again, I'm telling you, the Blade video game will come out way before.
Yep.
So
It ain't happening.
it ain't happening. All right, David, what you got this week?
Right. So get this pulled up. So fact or fiction number one in Daredevil Born Again, Muse will take someone's eyesight same way he did in the comics. A little poke of the eye, Three Stooges style.
Hey Mo, hey Mo, hey Mo. Um, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like who would it would happen because in the comics it's blind spot. We have no blind spot right now. Um, can't take Matt's eyes. Matt's that's already gone in that way. So um, I'm a fiction on that one, not because Disney Plus wouldn't do it. I just it's not a callback that they need to do because we don't have because the whole gimmick, the whole idea was like the character blind spot getting blinded at that, but we don't have anyone
Yes.
necessarily like that. So I'm a fiction on that one.
All right. Um, I I want it to happen. I struggle with who it would be. I have a feeling it's going to be a cop or something else, or it could be um even Matt's girlfriend, but there's so many options, but I don't know if they would pull the trigger. I hope they do just because I think it would be a cool scene for the character, but we shall see.
Yeah.
Um,
So.
Number two, Punisher's special will be directly led from the events of Daredevil Born Again.
Oh yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact.
So I thought, okay, so I know he John Bernthal's really loving the character. He wants to do right by the character. And I went back and forth this, okay, is this going to be its own story independent of Daredevil, or is this going to be right out of, hey, this is what was going on in Daredevil, and this is where the character's at now, and we are just taking this over here. So if you want to finish Frank's story, wait a couple of months. We'll be over here waiting on you.
Yeah. All right, and number three.
Number three, and this actually comes compliments of one of our coworkers, Dylan, who brought this to it. I had already kind of thought about this, but then he confirmed it, and somebody else, Colton, who we worked with, also came up with. So once so many people came up with the same theory, I'm like, I've got to throw this in. Um, Wilson Fisk will take Adam's hands and present them to Vanessa in this series.
Interesting. Um.
She kept going on and on about his hands
Yeah.
and his works of art. And it looked in the scene where he's saying Mr. Fisk and he's like, it's Mayor, and he's holding on the bars. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Adam's hands looked a little bit beaten and swollen in that moment. So
Oh yeah.
I have a feeling he may they may end up in a box somewhere, wrapped
I
in a
would say
bow.
what's in the box? What's in the box? Adam's hands. Yeah, I think it'd be cool, like kind of like one of those, like what's in the box, or all of the Godfather, the hands in the bed, or something like
Yeah.
that. Or, I'll tell you what, I'm enjoying sharing with you all the guy that's like doing the takeoff on becoming Wilson Fisk as he watches the show at that point.
Yes.
It's so good. It's so good. He's got the mannerisms down at that point. Yeah, I had to get to a fact just for the humor of it because I'd laugh. What can I
Yeah,
say?
I just want to see him say, "I've got some art for you," and it's Adam's hands and a box with a nice Tiffany bow on it.
Vanessa, I've got a gift for you.
You said you liked his hands. Just there you go.
Whee! All right, so I will put those out there. So let your voices be heard with that, and we'll go over those next week. So let us get back to comic book club. This was a longer one, so we're gonna kind of combine. We won't go issue by issue just because it was a longer one, but we can talk about the arcs in general. So this had two arcs kind of in it, but it was like a 5 issue arc followed by a 3 issue arc. And this is I determined this based on how the trades are collected. This is what this trade collected. So we got two things going on, David. We'll talk about the first part, the longer one. This was actually interesting. Matt had talked about like he had an idea of what he was going to do to kind of test this, and it's a big risk that he is trying to get it basically signed off by the courts that superheroes can be used to testify in court without having to reveal their identity. Big
Yeah,
risk, and he ropes in a number of people from the community. Kind of go through like he ropes in the opening issue with Luke Cage, Echo, and to kind of set this whole thing up. What did you think about that idea? Because there's a lot of back and forth as we go through this, and we're going to look at it generally at that point. But this idea of Matt putting that forward, because again, it could blow up everything for him.
he did. He took a huge risk. And they were very methodical with his risk. Like he told Luke Cage, like, "All right, I need your help. We need to take down these bad guys. I can't be involved as Daredevil. I have to stay back, so I need you to handle this. I will guide you through this, but I need you to handle this." And then the scene where they're in court and he pops up and he's like, "Yes, I am appearing as Daredevil." And I did laugh at when the judge called him Mr. Devil, and he's like, "Excuse me, Your Honor, all due respect, but it's Daredevil, one name." And they're having their moment, and he's they're going back and forth. I also like how the defending lawyer was like, "Yeah, you know what? We're gonna challenge this. He needs to reveal his identity." And they're like, "Yeah, we were already ready for that, and we have a challenge to your challenge. Everything you thought of, we already thought of." And the judge ends up saying, "You know what? You guys are absolutely right. I feel that in various cases, we have had people come in as confidential informants. They've been allowed to speak
Mhm.
without revealing their identity. So I'm going to extend the same thing to Daredevil as long as he can prove he is Daredevil." And he goes on to try and prove it. He
Yeah,
goes, "Oh, there's someone in the hallway. She's talking on the phone. She's waiting on her husband to do this." And the defending attorney's like, "That could be a plant." And he goes, "Okay, well, you had this type of sandwich and a salad for lunch and all this other stuff." He goes, "And you could lie and say you didn't, but then other people saw you, and then that would make them liars if they lied for you, and that's not a good look for you." And the defendant was like, "Well, I ate in public, so where's that?" And at that moment, there's a break-in in the court, and Daredevil leaps into action.
I know that.
Thro-
Yeah, these were people that had they had faced earlier at that point, and yeah, you said Daredevil goes into action and jumps all around, does all his acrobatics and things like that. But I really understood like Matt wasn't there to kind of because he has a close association with Daredevil, so he's in the case but not in the case, and I like it that this is a way to like he wins that first one after the whole thing like it's superheroes can go in and testify without having to reveal identity, but then the appeal like Fisk gets really upset because like this can blow up everything for him. He doesn't
yeah.
want that, so he gets what is it like Mr. Lawyer, what's the name of the guy?
The lawyer.
The
He's
lawyer at
like
that point.
he's like He's like, yep. Well, you used to be counsel for Tony Stark. He's like, yeah. He's
Yeah.
like, are you good? I'm the lawyer. That's all you need to know. I'm
Yeah,
the
I'm
lawyer.
the lawyer. Um, and so they goes in the appeal, and Matt loses. Like we don't see what
Yeah,
happens because like the end of that issue when like they go to the appeal, like we don't see exactly what happens because Matt's about to
but he
speak.
gets embarrassed apparently.
Yeah, and like his and even his district the district attorney who signed off on this like saying you embarrassed yourself at this point, so yeah, you can appeal to the Supreme Court and go that, but you're going to do it without any resources, anything like that. And that's when he goes to Foggy, who they're still not on great terms with, and says, hey, I don't have any resources. I'm asking you to step in for this. We'll always have talked about going in front of the Supreme Court, arguing in front of the highest court of the land, and getting this done. And even Foggy's like, you lose. This is going to be huge. This is going to be really reverberating at that point. Are you going to recover? He said it's worth the risk. And so when they go in front of the Supreme Court, um, he lays it all out there, and he presents a very similar case like he did in the beginning, but shows exactly like what having heroes, the balance of what heroes do for this, the not just like the United States but for the world, what they put on the line. Why can't we give them that same um idea? And F. Jack, who as always does his homework, says, but Matt went through next level thinking where he threw that appeal case. Yep, that's what I was getting at. Like he reveals to Foggy like he did it on purpose. He
Yeah,
reveals that in order to get to the Supreme Court, he throws it on purpose to get it to be a whole thing around the nation. But that's a big thing of him to get that done. Like heroes become part of the system without having to give up the identity that they have. I'd say that's a very cool arc. And of all people, Charles Soule, being a former lawyer, could craft a story like that and make it say like, yeah, we could probably make that happen. You know?
yeah. So
Uh,
it was very. I liked where they went with that, and the fact that it was so in depth on the law aspect of, it's this is a big risk. We're trying this, and we will
mhm.
see exactly where we go from there. And he ends up going to the Supreme Court, winning the right to remain anonymous, and gets that big win back.
Yeah. So that arc ends, and then we pick up this kind of mini arc, which I really don't have too much stuff to say to because it really wasn't my thing. You know, we get apparently Blind Spot was be we he like what was it Matt gets this kind of notice that Blind Spot used to get, like asked him to come in to go find him.
Yeah,
um
he travels to China looking for him after because Blind Spot in previous issues he had this kind of shrine that people would come and they would
leave
write
notes
letters of
behind.
what's going on, and it's always stupid stuff like, oh, I'm getting harassed by the local thugs, or hey, my landlord's trying to raise my rent and push me out so he can do this and I need someone.
Yeah.
But this one is an actual note for Daredevil, not Blind Spot this time, telling him to come to China and look for him.
Yeah. And so he comes to China. I guess he becomes like taken over by the Hand, you know, because it's always got to be the Hand and everything like that, and the Beast. And we don't know how long Matt's been gone. Like he gets captured, he ends up breaking out. You know, long story short, I mean, again, this kind of seemed like okay, we need something in between before we get to the next big thing. He's able to break the spell off of a Blind Spot. They take down the Beast. He's apparently been kicked. I love it. It said like the hotel he was staying at. Matt's lost his cell phone, his passport because the hotel he never came back, so they got rid of it. So he had to find a way to get. And of course, Matt's a really good lawyer and has lots of friends, so he can get back. Um, but I think the big revelation at the end of this is when Foggy's been calling him, saying, "I've been trying to get a hold of you. Where have you been?" Is like, "Oh, you're a little too late because some news happened." And we see the news happened, and at the end of the issue, we find out however long Matt's been gone, during that time, Wilson Fisk has become the mayor of New York.
Yep. Like, yeah. And they never quantify exactly how long Matt's been gone, how long everything he was captured by the hand of the beast and everything that was going on with Blind Spot. But Wilson Fisk made a power play, and it worked. It
Yeah,
it worked.
Matt may have gotten his win over the course, and this is like Wilson's next move against Matt Murdock, who
Plan
at this
Plan C, as he said at the end of the last arc.
Yep. So, but yeah, the next arc is the infamous Mayor Fisk arc, and this is where we get a renumbering back to the legacy numbers of Daredevil. So we're jumping from issue 28, but we are now back to legacy numbering. So if you're following on Marvel Unlimited, you just continue on. To from issues 595 to 600. This will be not next week, but in 2 weeks, because as always, when one of us steps away at that point, so you get a little time of Fifth Jack and others to do your homework. A little bit easier this time with 5 issues, and we will pick up in 2 weeks with the Mayor Fisk arc. So, all right, David, volume 253 in the books. I hope you enjoy the rest of your vacation. And we will see Mr. Hines next week stepping in for these next 2 episodes. But tell people how they can follow you.
You can follow me on all socials at the Phantom, as it is written down below. That is with a zero and not an O. You can follow me here on the Geek First Network. I'm also part of the wrestling show, The Gimmick, along with Mr. Travis Snell and S. Bubs, talking all things wrestling. We just finished
I was about to
last
say,
weekend
how
a
long did you stream?
officially 7 hours and 15 minutes. I think we were on for about 6.5 hours of that. We did have some technical difficulties. It was the first full weekend of the game's release, so there were some bugs and things that we had to work through with some droppages, but we made it through an entire season of WWE 2K25's GM mode. We will be coming back. It will not be 7 hour streams. We are working on something a little bit different that we think people will like and keep you coming back for. So watch out for that. And we are in the midst of WrestleMania season. So we got that coming up in a month. So the lead up to that is going to be major. So if you're into wrestling, you can follow me on The Gimmick. Again, you follow me on all socials at The Phantom, where I talk nerd stuff and you get another peek into just my life as a whole.
Nice. And yep, you can follow me on all the socials at Chris Balga. You can catch me on Saturdays. In addition to this show, you can catch me every Saturday on the Brave and the Boys YouTube channel. Looking at we do the OPB Buyer's Guide at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Saturday. So check that out. And but you can follow this show on Twitter/X at Marvel A Podcast. You can email the show at Marvel Alliance at Marvel Alliance Podcast at gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network at GUA Pod Network. Feel free to email, tweet. DMs are open across the board for feedback, fact or fictions. Continue to rate and review Marvel Alliance on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcast. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you all for listening us live in the chat. Thank you all for listening on the audio feeds. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right, post-credits discussion this week. What you got for me, David?
Okay, so our good friend Giancarlo Esposito has revealed the character that Marvel originally cast him as. So, um, Giancarlo Esposito was initially slated to play a different Serpent Society villain before becoming Sidewinder in Captain America: Brave New World. In an interview with Empire, the Emmy-nominated actor has revealed that Marvel initially considered him for the role of King Cobra before pivoting to Sidewinder due to the film's additional photography phase. The casting shift occurred as part of Marvel's broader strategy to ground the Serpent Society characters for their Marvel Cinematic Universe debut, moving away from the more fantastical elements present in the comics. The revelation provides new insight into the film's production process, which underwent significant changes, including reshoots that delayed its release from March 2024 to February 2025. This is the part that really got me with this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Quoted as saying, I was on the phone with producer Nate Moore, who prepped me to be possibly a character called King Cobra, Esposito shared. The star also shared his excited reception of the character. I loved it because if I'm walking around the neighborhood, African Americans will go, "What's up, King?" I love it. They call me King, baby. I mean, that's the highest honor. But as it turns out, there are other kings in the Marvel world, and this was connected to the Serpent Society. However, Mark will ultimately determine that King Cobra wasn't the best fit for Captain America Brave New World. Nate said we can give you all the characteristics of King, but we think he should be Sidewinder. Esposito explained about the Captain America Brave New World overhaul, and they spoke about creating a character that was really grounded in a mercenary fashion. They wanted to ground the movie when they went back in to do some additional shooting, and their focus was now on this additional character. So it's a bit of a whirlwind for me. I focused myself and I went in there, knocked it out, and I'm hoping to be in this universe a little bit longer. Now, with all that said, I loved him in Brave New World. I love him in basically anything, but um, I would have liked to have seen their take on King Cobra. I get that in the comic books, like, they do lend more to the serpent aspect with him than they do some other members of the Serpent Society. But again, I would have just I get where he's coming from that aspect of for the culture and having people who walk up to you and recognize you for this role and say, "What up, King?" Like that, that's an honor. And
Yeah.
I I do want them for that. I want him to get his flowers at any opportunity possible. So my question to you is, should Marvel have kept it as their original plan, or do you think they did the right thing with grounding the Serpent Society or their version of the Serpent Society?
I still don't know what the Serpent Society is, in the sense of, and I
As it
mean that.
relates to the Marvel universe.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just another boogeyman in my eyes, based on like Brave New World, just because they didn't give me enough to care about what the Serpent Society really is. So, in the sense of why they pivoted from him being called King Cobra to Sidewinder, it really doesn't matter in the sense of, because it's two entirely different what they were doing with the Serpent Society. It's a mercenary group right now, with a scary name, and I put scary in quotes. Um, I love him as an actor. I think he did what was necessary for what the role that was given to him, um, and I just need more to understand, like, why should I care about the Serpent Society in the Marvel universe? I don't.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing that they did really in Brave New World outside of having an amazing actor portray an interesting villain. Um, but even then, I don't think they gave him enough to chew on to really make me even care about the character yet. I'm more of a wait and see.
Yeah. I think for what they did with the character, you could have left him as King Cobra and had that moment of the people still referring to him as the king,
Yeah,
and it would not have
yeah,
changed how
wouldn't
he was
change. You're right.
presented in the MCU. For the way that they grounded them, you did not have to change him to Sidewinder, other than the fact that Sidewinder was the original lead of the Serpent Society. Like,
Yeah.
outside of that, you did not need to change that. He could have been anyone within the Society.
Ooh,
The minute you changed it,
could we name him the Sand Spider? That's really scary. Sand Spider.
but the minute you changed it, you took away Seth Rollins, you took away some of the other elements of this. You really
Mhm.
toned down the group for whatever reason, whether it was avoiding the fantastical or avoiding any implications to any other groupings that are going against the grain. Them changing the name from New World Order to Brave New World, and making those changes for whatever their reasons were. I think they could have kept him as quote unquote King Cobra, and it wouldn't have changed anything with the direction that they took this character.
What I will say is this, though, and I'm fine eating crow on this, and I said I would at that point. Brave New World is going to be making, at the end of its run, over $400 million. I didn't see that coming. I don't think you saw it coming
I
necessarily.
did not.
And so, if people want to say this movie's a flop, it is not. It is not a flop. And it works to my advantage because that puts me at a very good point of reaching my prediction for this year is three Marvel movies combined will make $1 billion. That means Thunderbolts Asterix and Fantastic Four will only need to make $300 million each, which I think for both is very doable. If Brave New World can do it, and I know they haven't had a lot of competition, and for Thunderbolts and Thunderbolts Asterix and Fantastic Four First Steps has a little bit more competition. I think both those movies can very much make $300 million. I was not expecting. I was expecting the other two movies to have to do the heavy lifting, but good job, Brave New World. I will say I was wrong at that point, but this is not a flop of a movie. It may have not been the critical acclaim, but I even said it in our review that this was not a bad movie. This was a good movie for what it was. You know.
Yeah. I will have to go back and look in the various show notes. I don't remember if it was a episode factor fiction or if it was my yearly predictions, but I predicted that it would be the lowest grossing of the Captain America
Yeah.
movies,
Let me see.
and
I'll pull that
I
up.
I I will gladly say that I was wrong on that, and I that is something that I'm happy with. So, mainly because I love Anthony Mackie, I want him to get all of his shine as well.
Yep.
So this exceeded my expectations when it comes to the amount of money it made, and I'm happy for it.
Yep. So yeah, you did put that as one of your 2025 predictions to be the lowest grossing Captain America movie. So you missed on that one. I'm sure I'll miss on one of them as well at that point. But yeah, that's
I will
that's
gladly take that L. I
yep.
will gladly sit here and take that L.
Yep, exactly. So all right. David, enjoy your vacation. We'll see you back in 2 weeks. Mr. Hines will be returning to us next week for breaking down the next two episodes of Daredevil, Born Again. Y'all have a good weekend. I'm finally going to celebrate my birthday after work tomorrow. Look forward to it. Look forward to seeing y'all back next week. Stay safe out there, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.